Captain Jake Morrison walked slowly toward the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. His boots made soft sounds on the polished metal floor. Behind him, 3 other humans followed. They all wore the same dark blue uniforms with the Earth symbol on their shoulders. Jake had been to this place many times before. Each visit had been the same. The aliens would ask for something. Earth would provide it. The humans would leave and the cycle would repeat. Today was different. Today, Jake carried a message that would change everything. The chamber was huge. The ceiling stretched so high that Jake could barely see the top. Around the circular room, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in special seats designed for their different body types. Some had tentacles, others had 4 arms or wings. A few looked almost like humans, but their skin was strange colors. The blue-skinned Zephyrians sat in the front row. Their leader, Dr. Kelvash, was talking quietly with another of his kind. Jake could hear their translator devices working. The machines turned their alien words into English, but Jake caught phrases like stupid humans and waste of space. The insect-like Thrax made clicking sounds with their mandibles. Their black eyes reflected the chamber's bright lights. Jake knew they were discussing the latest border war. They always needed human soldiers to fight their battles. High Chancellor Zentar called the meeting to order. His tentacles moved in complex patterns as he spoke. The Chancellor was from a species called the Gorvak. They looked like giant squids but lived on land. Zentar had been the council leader for over 20 years. The council recognizes Captain Morrison of Earth, Zentar announced. His voice came through the translation system with a deep, booming sound. Jake stepped forward to the speaking platform in the center of the room. He looked around at all the alien faces staring at him. Some showed curiosity. Others showed the same boredom they always had when dealing with humans. "I have served this council for 15 years, Jake began. His voice was calm but strong. "In that time, I have seen Earth provide everything you have asked for. We have given you our best people, our resources, and our technology." A few aliens shifted in their seats. The Vortani, who looked like living crystals, made a sound like wind chimes. Jake knew they were laughing. When the Vortani needed their toxic waste planets cleaned, who did the work? Humans. When the Thrax needed soldiers for their wars, who fought and died? Humans. When dangerous mining operations went wrong, who fixed them? Humans. The chamber was getting quieter. Even the aliens who had been talking stopped to listen. "Last week, Ambassador Helen Carter received your latest request," Jake continued. "You want Earth to provide 10 million colonists to terraform Kepler 442c. You know this planet is so dangerous that even the Gorvak will not go there. You know that only 12% of our people will survive." High Chancellor Zentar's tentacles moved faster. Jake had learned that this meant the Chancellor was becoming angry or nervous. "The Terran Accords require your compliance, Morrison," Zentar said. "Earth agreed to provide assistance to the Galactic Council for 150 years. Only 30 years have passed." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Chancellor, I suggest you read Section 847 of those accords. Any member species may withdraw from the Council upon providing 6 months' notice." The chamber erupted in noise. The Zephyrians made high-pitched sounds. The Thrax clicked their mandibles loudly. The crystal Vortani rang like broken bells. Even the usually calm Gorvak were moving their tentacles in agitation. "You cannot be serious." Dr. Kelvash stood up from his seat. "Humans are barely capable of space travel. Without our guidance, you will destroy yourselves." "Your guidance?" Jake laughed. "Doctor, who designed the life support systems on your ships? Who created the translation devices you use? Who built the fusion reactors that power your cities?" Dr. Kelvash's blue skin turned a darker shade. Jake knew he had hit a nerve. "Furthermore," Jake continued, "who maintains your communication networks? Who keeps your computers running? Who designed the medical equipment in your hospitals?" The chamber was becoming more chaotic. Security drones, sleek metal robots with glowing red eyes, began moving toward the human delegation. Jake was not worried. He had expected this. "You think you can threaten us?" Zentar's voice was louder now. Without the Council's protection, Earth will be destroyed by our enemies. What enemies? Jake asked. The only wars in this galaxy are the ones you start? The only threats are the ones you create. Ambassador Helen Carter, who had been standing quietly behind Jake, stepped forward. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice was strong. For 30 years we have asked for one thing, respect. We have asked to be treated as equals, not as servants. You are servants, hissed Commander Ragmoth of the Thrax. Your species exists to serve your betters. Then our service ends today, Helen said simply. Jake reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple tablet, but it was much more. Dr. Lisa Park, Earth's top technology specialist, had designed it specifically for this moment. Chancellor, you asked how we can leave, Jake said. Let me show you. He pressed a button on the device. Immediately, every piece of human technology in the chamber went dark. The translation devices stopped working. The environmental controls shut down. The lights flickered and dimmed. Even the security drones stopped moving. The aliens began to panic. Without their translation devices, they could not understand each other. The Zephyrians were shouting in their own language. The Thrax were clicking frantically. The Vortani's crystal bodies were flashing different colors. This is just the beginning, Jake said loudly, knowing that only the few aliens who had learned English would understand him. Every human innovation, every piece of technology we have shared, every system we have built or improved will be removed. The security drones started working again, but they moved slowly and awkwardly. Jake knew that Lisa's device had removed all the human-made improvements to their programming. You have 6 months, Helen announced. In 6 months, every human will leave Council space. We will take our technology, our knowledge, and our people. You will have to manage without us. High Chancellor Zentar was trying to speak, but his translation device was not working properly. His words came out as broken fragments of English mixed with his own language. Cannot, leave, impossible, need humans, technology. Jake and his team began walking toward the exit. The security drones tried to stop them, but they were moving too slowly. Without human programming, they were clumsy and ineffective. As they reached the doors, Jake turned back one final time. You called us primitive. You said we were barely capable of space travel. You treated us like we were nothing. Today you will learn what nothing really means. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the chamber, the aliens were still, trying to fix their translation devices. The lights were flickering. The air circulation system was making strange noises. Walking down the corridor, Helen looked at Jake. Are you sure about this? There's no going back. Jake nodded. Admiral Bell is already coordinating the evacuation. Dr. Park has prepared the technology removal protocols. In 6 months, they will understand what they have lost. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of chaos growing louder. The Great Galactic Council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was discovering that their primitive servants had been the foundation of their entire civilization. The age of human servitude was ending. What came next would be up to humanity alone. Admiral Ryan Bell stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, watching the massive display screen that showed the entire galaxy. Thousands of red dots blinked across the map. Each dot represented a human colony, research station, or military base. In the next 6 months, every single human would leave these places. Admiral, we have confirmation from Sector 7, reported Commander Beth Sullivan. The mining crews on Titan 7 have begun dismantling the fusion reactors, Ryan nodded. Operation Exodus had been planned in secret for months. Every human leader knew this day would come. The aliens had pushed too far, demanded too much. Now they would learn what it meant to stand alone. What about the agricultural stations? Ryan asked. Dr. Chin's team on Harvest Prime is removing the atmospheric processors. The medical facilities on Luna 9 are being evacuated. Chief Turner is handling the communication networks. Ryan looked at the screen again. The red dots were already starting to disappear as humans left their posts. Soon, the galaxy would be a very different place on the mining world of Titan 7. Engineer Sam Rodriguez was working with his team to carefully remove the fusion reactors. The planet was rich in rare metals, but it was also deadly. The air was poisonous and the temperature was hot enough to melt metal. Only human-designed environmental suits made it possible to work there. Be careful with those power cores, Sam told his team. We don't want to leave them anything they can use. The Gorvak who owned the mine had always treated the human workers badly. They paid low wages and provided poor living conditions. Sam had asked for better safety equipment many times, but the Gorvak had refused. They said humans were replaceable. Now Sam was making sure the Gorvak would understand how wrong they had been. Sam, what about the backup generators? Asked Engineer Lucy Martin. Take them too, Sam replied. If they want power, they can figure out how to make it themselves. The work was slow and dangerous. Each reactor had to be carefully shut down and removed. The Gorvak supervisors kept asking questions, but Sam's team ignored them. They had their orders. Leave nothing functional. 3 systems away. Commander Beth Sullivan was overseeing the evacuation of the joint research facility on Luna 9. The base had been a symbol of cooperation between humans and aliens. Human scientists worked alongside Zephyrians to develop new technologies. At least, that was what the official report said. The truth was different. The humans did most of the real work while the Zephyrians took credit for the discoveries. Commander, Dr. Kelvash wants to speak with you, reported Lieutenant Maya Foster. Beth sighed. She had expected this. The blue-skinned Zephyrian had been the project leader for 5 years. He was also one of the aliens who had called humans primitive mammals in council meetings. Dr. Kelvash entered the command center. His large black eyes looked worried. Commander Sullivan, surely you are not serious about leaving. We are on the edge of a major breakthrough. What breakthrough? Beth asked. The quantum consciousness transfer project. We could revolutionize medicine, extend life, even achieve immortality. But we need your team's expertise in neural mapping. Beth almost laughed. The quantum consciousness project had been Dr. Lisa Park's idea. The human scientist had spent 3 years developing the theory. The Zephyrians had simply provided the funding and taken credit. Doctor, you have the research data. You have the equipment. You should be able to continue without us. Kelvash's skin turned a darker blue. The data is incomplete. The neural mapping algorithms are beyond our current understanding. Without human expertise, the project will fail. Then you should have treated us as partners instead of tools, Beth replied. Good luck with your research. As the last shuttle prepared to leave Luna 9, Beth watched the Zephyrians scrambling to understand the equipment the humans had left behind. Most of it would be useless to them. The real innovations existed only in human minds, and those minds were leaving. The most important evacuation was happening at Nexus Station, the galaxy's primary communication hub. The massive space station orbited a neutron star and used its energy to power the quantum communication arrays that connected every world in the galaxy. Chief Technology Officer Alex Turner had spent 8 years at Nexus Station. He had quietly improved every system, fixed every problem, and upgraded every piece of equipment. The aliens who ran the station barely noticed his work. They just expected everything to function perfectly. Sir, the alien staff is asking questions about the maintenance schedules, reported Lieutenant Maya Foster. Tell them to check the manuals, Alex replied. He was working at a computer terminal, his fingers moving quickly over the keys. Sir, what are you doing? Maya asked. Protocol 0, Alex said simply. A complete system reset. When we leave, the entire galactic communication network will go offline. Maya looked worried. Sir, won't that cause chaos? Ships will be lost, planets will be isolated, people might die. Alex stopped typing and looked at her. Maya, for 8 years I have sent reports to the station administrators. I've warned them about system failures, outdated equipment, and security vulnerabilities. Do you know what they told me? Maya shook her head. They told me to stop bothering them with technical details. They said a human could not possibly understand advanced alien technology. They said I should just fix problems quietly and not ask questions. Alex returned to his work. They never wanted to learn how their systems worked. They just wanted a human to keep everything running. Now they will learn what happens when the human leaves. The process took 3 hours. Alex carefully removed every piece of human code from the station's computers. He deleted the improved security protocols, the efficiency upgrades, and the emergency backup systems. When he was finished, the station's technology was exactly as it had been before humans arrived. The irony is beautiful, Alex said to Maya as they boarded their shuttle. They always claimed their technology was superior to ours. Now they can prove it. Back on the Endeavour, Admiral Bell was receiving reports from across the galaxy. The evacuation was proceeding smoothly, but the aliens were beginning to panic. Admiral, we are getting emergency communications from the Thrax border regions, reported Commander Sullivan. Their defense systems are failing. They are requesting immediate military assistance. Ryan was not surprised. The Thrax had always been proud warriors, but their modern military depended heavily on human-designed equipment and tactics. Human advisors had been quietly running their operations for years. Any response from other species? Ryan asked. No, sir. Everyone is dealing with their own problems. The Vortani industrial worlds are reporting environmental failures. The Zephyrian trade ships are having navigation problems. The Gorvak agricultural colonies are experiencing atmospheric processor malfunctions. Ryan nodded. It was exactly what the human leadership had predicted. The aliens had become so dependent on human support that they could not function without it. Admiral, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council, reported the communications officer. Put it through, Ryan ordered. Hi. Chancellor Zentar appeared on the screen. The alien looked terrible. His tentacles were moving in frantic patterns, and his skin had changed from its normal green to a sickly yellow color. Admiral Bell, you must reconsider this madness. The galaxy is falling apart. Systems are failing everywhere. We need human assistance immediately. Chancellor, you have 5 months and 3 weeks remaining, Ryan replied calmly. I suggest you use that time to learn how to maintain your own technology. You cannot do this? Zentar's voice was desperate. The economic damage alone will set back galactic civilization by centuries. Millions of beings will suffer. Chancellor, Earth offered to discuss new terms for human participation in galactic affairs. We asked for equal representation, fair treatment, and respect for human rights. What was your response? Zentar's tentacles stopped moving. Ryan knew the alien remembered that conversation. The council had laughed at the human requests. They had called them presumptuous and impossible. We can discuss new arrangements, Zentar said weakly. The time for discussion has passed, Ryan replied. You had 30 years to treat us fairly. You chose exploitation instead. Now you will learn to survive without us. The transmission ended. Ryan looked at the galaxy map again. More red dots were disappearing as humans continued their evacuation. Soon, the map would be empty of human presence. Commander Sullivan, send a message to all human ships and stations. Remind them that nothing functional should be left behind. If they built it, improved it, or repaired it, they should take it with them. Yes, sir, Beth replied. Admiral, do you think they will survive without us? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Some will, others will not. But that is no longer our concern. For too long we have carried their burdens while they treated us with contempt. Today we choose our own path. The Endeavour turned away from the galactic core and began its journey toward the outer rim. Behind them, the galaxy that had once dismissed humanity as primitive was learning what true civilization looked like, and what happened when it walked away. 3 weeks after the humans began leaving, the galaxy was already changing. Commander Ragmoth of the Thrax hegemony stood in his command center, watching the battle reports with growing horror. The rebel uprising on Kepler 9 had been a minor problem for 20 years. The Thrax military had easily contained it with human advisors helping them plan their strategies. Now the rebels were winning. "Commander, Sector 12 has fallen," reported his aide, clicking his mandibles nervously. "The rebels have captured 3 more cities." Ragmoth's forearms moved in agitation. "Where are the reinforcements? Where are the orbital strikes?" "Sir, the targeting computers are not working properly. The pilots cannot hit their targets. The ground forces are confused without their tactical support systems." Ragmoth knew the truth, though he would not admit it. The Thrax had always prided themselves on being great warriors. But for the past 20 years, human military advisors had been quietly running their operations. Humans had planned their strategies, programmed their computers, and trained their soldiers in modern tactics. The Thrax had focused on looking impressive while the humans did the real work. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," Ragmoth ordered. "Request immediate military assistance." "Sir, we already sent that message." The Council said all species are dealing with their own emergencies. No help is available. On the agricultural world of Harvest Prime, Governor Ken Matthews was preparing to leave on the last human transport. Through the shuttle window, he could see the Yuluk farmers running frantically through their fields. The crops were dying. The atmospheric processors that controlled the planet's weather were failing. For 15 years, Ken had maintained these massive machines. He had warned the Yuluk administrators about the need for regular maintenance, but they had ignored him. They said their own engineers could handle any problems. Now the planet's artificial atmosphere was becoming unstable. The carefully balanced gases that made it possible to grow food were changing. Without the processors working correctly, Harvest Prime would return to being a dead world within months. "Governor Matthews," called the Yuluk administrator as Ken boarded the shuttle. "Please." "You must stay. We need your expertise." Ken looked at the alien with its gray skin and large eyes. "Administrator Veltok, I gave you detailed maintenance schedules 5 years ago. I trained your engineers. I offered to teach your people how to repair the processors. We did not think it was necessary," Veltok admitted. "The machines always worked before." "They worked because I made them work," Ken replied. "I fixed them every time they broke down. I upgraded them when they became outdated. I prevented the failures that would have killed your crops." The shuttle doors were closing. Through the window, Ken could see the Yuluk farmers watching their fields turn brown. The planet that had fed 3 star systems would soon be unable to feed itself. The Vortani Collective was facing an even worse crisis. Their industrial worlds had always been the most polluted places in the galaxy. For decades, they had hired human cleanup crews to handle their toxic waste. The humans had found ways to neutralize the dangerous chemicals and radiation that the Vortani Industries produced. Crystal manager Zexthal stood in his factory on Vortani Prime, watching his workers flee. The beautiful crystal formations that his people grew took centuries to develop. Now they were dissolving in pools of their own poisonous waste. "Manager, the containment fields are failing," reported his assistant. "The toxic runoff is reaching the growth chambers." Zexthal's crystal body flashed angry red colors. "Where are the human waste management teams?" "Sir? They left 2 weeks ago. They said we should have learned to handle our own pollution by now." "Idiots!" Zexthal's body turned almost black with rage. "How are we supposed to know their cleaning methods?" The truth was that the Vortani had never bothered to learn. They had simply dumped their waste in designated areas and let the humans deal with it. The humans had built complex treatment facilities, developed neutralization chemicals, and created containment systems. The Vortani had ignored all of it. Now, their homeworld was drowning in toxic sludge. At the Galactic Council chambers, high Chancellor Zentar was holding his 5th emergency session of the week. The great hall that had once been a symbol of galactic unity was now filled with desperate voices and failing technology. "Order! Order!" Zentar called out, his tentacles waving frantically. "We must address these crises systematically." The translation devices were working poorly. Without human maintenance, they frequently broke down or mistranslated important words. Arguments erupted as species accused each other of saying things they had never said. "The Thrax rebellion is spreading to 4 more worlds," reported Counselor Vexfar of the Gorvik Federation. "Their military is collapsing without human support." "The Vortani industrial output has dropped by 70%, added another counselor. "Their pollution crisis is affecting trade routes throughout the sector." "The Zephyrian shipping lanes are paralyzed," said a third voice. "Their navigation systems are failing. Ships are getting lost in space." Zentar's health was clearly suffering. His skin had turned a sickly yellow-green color, and his tentacles moved slowly and awkwardly. The stress of managing the galactic crisis was overwhelming him. "We must contact Earth immediately," he declared. "Offer them whatever they want. Full voting rights, increased pay, better living conditions, anything." "Chancellor," said his aide. "Carefully, we cannot contact Earth. The communication networks are still down." This was the cruelest irony of all. The humans who had maintained the galactic communication system had left it in ruins. The few working transmitters could only reach nearby star systems. Earth, located in the outer rim, was completely out of contact. On the Zephyrian Trade World of Commerce Station, Dr. Kelvash was making a terrible discovery. He had been studying the quantum consciousness transfer project for weeks, trying to understand how to continue without human help. The research was impossible. "Dr. Kelvash, what have you found?" asked his assistant, Dr. Mortek. Kel Vash's blue skin was pale with shock. "The neural mapping algorithms, they are beyond our understanding. The quantum field calculations, we cannot even begin to solve them. But surely our computers can handle the mathematics?" "The computers were programmed by humans. The operating systems, the calculation subroutines, the data analysis programs, all of it was written by Dr. Lisa Park and her team." Dr. Mortek looked confused. "But we designed those systems. We created the quantum processors." "No," Kelvash said quietly. "We built the hardware. The humans wrote the software. We provided the funding. The humans provided the innovation. For 30 years, we have been taking credit for human discoveries." The revelation was spreading throughout the Zephyrian scientific community. Their greatest achievements in medicine, physics, and engineering had all depended on human expertise. Without that knowledge, they were centuries behind where they thought they were. Dr. Elena Cruz was monitoring these developments from a hidden listening post in the asteroid belt. Her job was to observe the galactic collapse and report back to Earth Command. "The situation is deteriorating faster than we predicted," she reported during her daily briefing. "The Thrax hegemony is losing territory daily. The Vortani industrial worlds are becoming uninhabitable. The Zephyrian trade network is paralyzed." "What about the Gorvik Federation?" asked Admiral Bell over the secure communication link. "They are the most stable so far, but they are also the most dependent on agricultural imports. As the farming worlds fail, they will face food shortages within months." Elena looked at her monitoring screens. Each display showed a different aspect of the galactic crisis. Economic collapse, military defeats, environmental disasters, and technological failures were spreading like a plague. "Admiral, they are trying to communicate with us constantly. The emergency channels are flooded with requests for help." "Any threats?" "A few. The Thrax have threatened to attack human colonies if we do not return. The Vortani have accused us of sabotage, but mostly they are just desperate." Admiral Bell was quiet for a moment. "Elena, do you think we made the right choice?" Elena looked at the data again. The galaxy was suffering, but it was suffering because of problems the aliens had created themselves. They had built their civilization on the backs of human workers while refusing to learn or grow. "Admiral, they had 30 years to treat us with respect. They chose exploitation instead. We offered to teach them our methods. They said they did not need to learn from primitives. We warned them about the consequences of their actions. They ignored us, and now? Now they are learning that calling someone primitive does not make it true. They are discovering that their advanced civilization was built on foundations they never bothered to understand." The galaxy that had once looked down on humanity was crumbling. Species that had considered themselves superior were begging for help from the primitives they had despised. The Great Galactic Council, which had ruled for thousands of years, was discovering that power without wisdom was worthless in the hidden depths of space. Human ships continued their journey toward new homes. They carried with them the knowledge and skills that had kept galactic civilization functioning. Behind them, they left a galaxy learning the hard way that respect could not be demanded. 6 months had passed since the humans began their exodus. The galaxy that had once dismissed humanity as primitive was now calling the crisis the Great Regression. Civilizations that had stood for thousands of years were collapsing in weeks. President Carl Mitchell sat in his office aboard the colony ship New Horizon, reading the latest intelligence reports. The data was staggering. Over half the galaxy's major trade routes had failed. 3 entire star systems had gone dark. Billions of beings were facing starvation, war, or environmental collapse. Mr. President, Admiral Bell is here with the final evacuation report, announced his secretary. Admiral Ryan Bell entered the office carrying a thick data pad. His face showed relief but also sadness. The evacuation had been successful, but the cost to galactic civilization was enormous. All human personnel have been safely evacuated, Ryan reported. We lost 12 people in the final withdrawals from the war zones, but overall casualties were minimal. And the galaxy? Carl asked, though he already knew the answer. Complete. Breakdown in most sectors. The Thrax hegemony fell 3 days ago. Their empire collapsed when rebel forces captured their capital world. The proud warriors who once enslaved dozens of species are now refugees begging for asylum from their former victims. Carl shook his head. What about the others? The Zephyrian Trade Federation has lost 80% of its shipping capacity. Their advanced navigation systems turned out to be completely dependent on human programming. Entire fleets are stranded in space, their crews slowly dying as life support systems fail. Ryan handed Carl the datapad. The Vortani situation is even worse. Their industrial worlds are uninhabitable. The pollution they ignored for decades has turned their homeworld into a toxic wasteland. They are evacuating their entire population, but they have nowhere to go. On the former Thrax world of Kepler 9, the victorious rebels were making a disturbing discovery. Commander Zilpak, leader of the Resistance, stood in the captured Thrax command center surrounded by alien technology. He could not understand. "Commander, we cannot operate these systems," reported his aide. "The computers use Thrax military codes, but the programming appears to be in human language." Zilpak was confused. "That makes no sense. The Thrax always claimed their technology was superior to human design." "Sir, we found training manuals in the command center. They are all written in English. It appears that human advisors were running the entire Thrax military operation. The rebels had spent 20 years fighting what they thought was Thrax oppression. Now they were learning that their real enemies had been the human military advisors, who had made Thrax domination possible. But those humans were gone now, and the sophisticated military systems were useless without them. What about the orbital defense platforms?" Zilpak asked. "Non-functional, sir. They require human access codes and maintenance protocols that we do not have." The irony was bitter. The rebels had won their freedom, but only because their oppressors had also lost the human support that had made their empire possible. Victory had come not through their own strength, but through the departure of the real power behind the Thrax throne on Zephyr Prime. Dr. Kelvash was conducting a desperate experiment. He had spent months trying to reverse engineer human technology, but every attempt had failed. The Quantum Consciousness Transfer Project, which had promised to revolutionize medicine, was completely beyond Zephyrian understanding. Dr. Kelvash. "The test subject is ready," announced his assistant. Kelvash looked at the primitive consciousness transfer device they had built. It was a crude copy of human designs, lacking the sophisticated neural mapping algorithms that made the process safe. "Are you certain about this?" asked Dr. Mortek. Without the human safety protocols, the subject could suffer permanent brain damage. We have no choice, Calvash replied. The Council is demanding results. If we cannot prove that Zephyrian science can function without human assistance, our entire research budget will be eliminated. The experiment was a disaster. Within minutes, the test subject was dead, his consciousness scattered across the quantum field with no way to retrieve it. The machine that humans had made safe and reliable became a torture device in alien hands. Shut it down, Calvash ordered quietly. Send a report to the Council. The Quantum Consciousness Project is terminated. Dr. Mortek looked shocked. But sir, this was our most important research. The medical applications alone could save millions of lives. Without human expertise, we are not saving lives. We are destroying them. The failure was the final proof of what many Zephyrian scientists had begun to suspect. Their civilization had been living a lie for 30 years. Every major breakthrough, every technological advance, every innovation they had claimed credit for had actually been the work of their human assistants. Ambassador Helen Carter was reading similar reports from across the galaxy aboard the human colony ship Freedom. As Earth's primary diplomatic representative, she was monitoring the alien communications that humanity could still intercept. The situation is worse than we predicted, she told her staff during their daily briefing. The aliens are not just losing technology. They are losing the knowledge of how to maintain their own civilizations. What do you mean? Asked Deputy Ambassador Lisa Wong. The Gorvik Federation is facing mass starvation. Their agricultural worlds were maintained by human atmospheric engineers. Without those engineers, the planets are becoming uninhabitable. But instead of trying to learn how to fix the problems, they are blaming each other for the crisis. Helen pulled up a holographic display showing the galactic political situation. The Vortani Collective has broken into 17 separate kingdoms. Each crystal faction is claiming that the others are responsible for the pollution crisis. None of them are actually trying to clean up their worlds. Are any of the species adapting? Asked another aide. A few. Some of the smaller civilizations that never relied heavily on human support are managing to survive. But the major powers, the ones who treated us worst, are collapsing completely. Helen paused at a particularly disturbing report. The most tragic case is the Ilani. They were a peaceful species that the Thrax had conquered 50 years ago. Human advisors helped the Thrax maintain control over them. Now that the Thrax Empire has fallen, the Ilani are free, but their world is dying because the atmospheric processors are failing. The cruel irony was that the species most deserving of help were suffering because of systems that humans had built to help their oppressors. The peaceful Ilani had never mistreated humanity, but they were dying because of human technology that they did not understand. On the research vessel Discovery, Dr. Elena Cruz was compiling the final intelligence report on the galactic collapse. The data she had collected over the past 6 months painted a clear picture of civilizational failure. The economic damage is unprecedented, she reported during her briefing to Earth Command. Galactic trade has declined by 90%. The communication networks are still mostly offline. Most worlds are isolated and struggling to survive on their own resources. What about technological regression? Asked Admiral Bell over the communication link. Severe across all major species. The Zephyrians have lost approximately 2 centuries of technological advancement. The Vortani have regressed even further. Their industrial capacity is now below what it was before they joined the Galactic Council. Elena brought up another data display. The social collapse is equally dramatic. The Thrax hegemony has fragmented into dozens of warring factions. The Gorvik Federation is experiencing civil war as different regions blame each other for the food shortages. Even the usually stable Zephyrian government is facing rebellion from colonies that feel abandoned. Any attempts to restore communication with Earth? Admiral Bell asked. Constant attempts, sir. They are sending messages on every frequency they can access. Most are requests for help, but some are threats. The Thrax remnants have sworn to hunt down human colonies and force us to return. The Vortani have accused us of committing genocide through technological sabotage. Dr. Cruz paused before delivering her final assessment. Admiral, the galaxy we left 6 months ago no longer exists. What remains is a collection of failing civilizations that have no idea how to survive without the humans they despised. On Earth itself, President Carl Mitchell was addressing the Global Assembly for the last time from the Sol system. Tomorrow, the final human ships would leave for the new colonies in the Andromeda Spiral Arm. Fellow humans, he began, 6 months ago, we made the difficult decision to leave the galaxy that had been our home for generations. Today I can report that our evacuation has been completed successfully. The assembly hall was filled with representatives from the new human colonies. These people had chosen to build a new civilization rather than remain in a galaxy that refused to respect them. The reports from our former territories show the extent of the collapse that has followed our departure. Some of you have asked whether we should return to help. Some have suggested that we have a moral obligation to prevent this suffering. Carl paused, looking out at the faces of his people. I want to remind you why we left. For 30 years, we served the Galactic Council faithfully. We provided our best people, our finest technology, and our greatest innovations. 2 years had passed since humanity left the galaxy. In the Andromeda Spiral Arm, the Human Confederation was thriving like never before. Admiral Ryan Bell stood on the observation deck of the new orbital station above New Geneva, watching construction. Ships building the latest human colony. The difference was remarkable. Without the constant demands of galactic service, human innovation had exploded. New technologies emerged every month. Faster-than-light drives that made old alien ships look primitive. Environmental systems that could terraform dead worlds in years instead of decades. Medical advances that promised to extend human life far beyond what had ever been possible. Admiral, the daily intelligence report is ready, announced Commander Beth Sullivan. Ryan nodded and followed her to the briefing room. The walls displayed holographic maps showing both the new human territories and the continuing collapse of their former galaxy. What is the situation back home? Ryan asked. The Vortani Collective no longer exists, Beth reported. The last crystal kingdom fell 3 weeks ago. Their homeworld is completely uninhabitable. The survivors are scattered across refugee camps on dozens of worlds. Ryan felt a moment of sadness. Despite their arrogance, the Vortani had been skilled artisans. Their crystal sculptures had been beautiful. But they had chosen to destroy their own world rather than learn from the humans who could have taught them to protect it. The Thrax situation is even worse, Beth continued. The species that once ruled 100 worlds is now extinct. The last Thrax died in a refugee camp on the border world of Kepler-15. What about the Zephyrians? They have lost 90% of their territory. What remains of their government has retreated to their homeworld. They are completely isolated. Their space fleet is grounded because they cannot maintain their ships without human-designed components. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy had crumbled in less than 2 years. Species that had ruled for millennia were gone forever. It was a stark reminder of how dependent they had become on human expertise, but not all the news was tragic. There is some positive information, Beth added. Several smaller species are beginning to recover. The Ilani have managed to repair their atmospheric processors using manuals that our people left behind. The Kethter mining colonies have developed their own methods for handling toxic waste. These were the species that had never mistreated humanity. They had been victims of the larger empires rather than oppressors themselves. Ryan was glad to hear they were surviving. On the colony world of New Texas, Dr. Lisa Park was leading humanity's most ambitious project yet. Her team was developing technology that would have been impossible under the restrictions of galactic service. Free from alien demands and limitations, they were pushing the boundaries of science. Dr. Park, the quantum field generators are ready for testing, reported her assistant, Dr. Kevin Moore. Lisa looked at the massive device that filled the entire laboratory. It was a consciousness transfer system that made the old alien designs look like stone tools. But this version was designed for exploration, not medicine. It would allow human consciousness to travel instantly across vast distances, exploring new galaxies without the limitations of physical space travel. "Are we certain about the safety protocols?" Lisa asked. "Absolutely. We have learned from every mistake the aliens made. Our neural mapping is 10 times more precise than anything the Zephyrians attempted. The quantum field stabilizers prevent the consciousness scattering that killed their test subjects." The first test was scheduled for the next day. If successful, humanity would achieve something that no alien species had ever accomplished. They would become truly unlimited by the constraints of physical travel, but success raised questions that the human leadership was still debating. Dr. Park had requested a meeting with the Colonial Council to discuss the implications of their technological advances. In the council chambers of New Geneva, President Carl Mitchell was leading a heated discussion about humanity's future role in the universe. The question was whether they should help the surviving alien species or continue their policy of isolation. "We have the power to save them," argued Dr. Helen Carter, now serving as the Secretary of Colonial Affairs. "Our medical technology could cure the plague spreading through the refugee populations. Our environmental systems could restore the damaged worlds." "And why should we?" countered Admiral Bell. "They had 30 years to learn from us. They chose arrogance instead. Now they are facing the consequences of their choices." The debate had been ongoing for months. Some humans believed they had a moral obligation to help. Others felt that intervention would only enable the same cycle of dependence that had led to the crisis. A young woman rose from her seat in the gallery. She was Maya Chun, now 18 years old and representing the children of the evacuated colonies. Her generation had grown up during the Exodus and saw the situation differently than their parents. "May I speak?" Maya asked. President Mitchell nodded. "The council recognizes Representative Chun." Maya walked to the center of the chamber. She had been born on one of the alien worlds and had spent her childhood watching humans being treated as second-class citizens. But she had also seen acts of kindness from individual aliens who had risked their own safety to help human families. "Mr. President, council members, I understand the anger many of you feel. I grew up watching our people being mistreated and undervalued. I remember the fear in my parents' eyes when alien supervisors would threaten our family's safety." She paused, looking around the chamber. "But I also remember Dr. Valnari, the Kethter, physician who saved my little brother's life when the human medical facilities were denied to us. I remember teacher Zigpal, the Ilani educator who secretly taught human children advanced mathematics because the alien schools claimed we were too primitive to learn." Maya's voice grew stronger. "We left the galaxy because they did not see us as equals. If we abandon everyone completely, we become exactly what they accused us of being. A species that only cares about itself." The chamber was silent. Maya's words had touched something that many had been feeling but could not express. "I propose the humanitarian assistance protocol," Maya continued. "We should help those species that showed respect for human dignity. Not as servants returning to serve their masters, but as equals helping equals." The idea sparked intense debate. Some council members argued that any assistance would be seen as weakness. Others believed that selective help would demonstrate human superiority without creating dependence. After 3 days of discussion, the council reached a decision. They would offer limited assistance to species that met specific criteria. They had to have treated humans with respect during the galactic period. They had to request help rather than demand it. And they had to agree to learn human methods rather than simply receive human solutions. The first species to qualify was the Ilani. They had been peaceful farmers before the Thrax conquered them. During the years of human service, they had treated human workers with kindness and respect. Now they were struggling to maintain their world's atmosphere without understanding the human-built systems. Ambassador Helen Carter led the first humanitarian mission back to the old galaxy. Her ship, the UES Compassion, carried a small team of volunteers and basic supplies, but their primary cargo was knowledge. "This feels strange," commented Dr. Lisa Park as they approached Ilani space, "returning to help the people we left behind." "We are not returning," Helen corrected. "We are visiting." "There is a difference." The Ilani reception was overwhelming. When the human ship arrived at their dying world, thousands of Ilani gathered at the spaceport. Their leader, Elder Tanvel, approached the human delegation with tears in his large eyes. "We never expected to see humans again," he said through a translator device. "We thought you had abandoned us forever." "We did not abandon you, Elder," Helen replied. "We left those who mistreated us." "You were never our enemies." The humanitarian mission lasted 3 months. Human engineers taught Ilani technicians how to maintain their atmospheric processors. Human doctors shared medical knowledge that could prevent the diseases spreading through their refugee camps. Human agricultural specialists helped them develop crops that could grow in their damaged soil, but the most important thing they shared was respect. The humans worked alongside the Ilani as partners, not as superior beings helping primitives. They learned from Ilani methods just as they taught Ilani technology. When the mission ended, the Ilani had not just survived. They had begun to thrive. More importantly, they had learned to solve their own problems using the knowledge humans had shared. "This is how it should have been from the beginning," Elder Tanvel said during the farewell ceremony. "Partners working together, not masters and servants." Helen nodded. "Perhaps the galaxy will learn this lesson in time. But it will have to learn it without human servants to depend on." As the UES Compassion departed Ilani space, similar humanitarian missions were being planned for other deserving species. The Kether mining colonies needed help with radiation cleanup. The peaceful Fendai required assistance with their failing communication systems, but the major powers that had fallen would receive no help. The Zephyrians, still trapped on their homeworld, continued to send demands for human assistance.